Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Gwei Refuel, where we recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and it's the 17th of April, 2023. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So an update on the KZG ceremony. You guys remember the KZG ceremony? I was talking about it quite frequently when it was going on about a month ago now, I believe. But basically it's the ceremony to set up the KZG commitment for, well, I guess I should say, sorry, it's the trusted setup ceremony for EIP 4844. You can learn all about it by going to the website and everything. But the reason it's back in the, I guess, refuel today is because Carl Beek, one of the people behind the KZG ceremony, put a tweet thread out today announcing that the ceremony will be opening up for public contributions again soon, but things are a little different this time. So he continues by saying, due to the lobby getting crazily large, we are trying something new. We're starting with really high nonce requirements, and we're going to keep reducing them. So for now, you'll need to have sent at least 128 transactions before the 13th of January 2023. When the lobby looks like it is getting empty, we'll reduce the requirements so new people can participate. This is all coming back off the back of some very interesting special contributions, which you can check out in Trent's thread here. But I think this is a really great way to prevent cyber attacks on the KZG ceremony, the airdrop farmers, people just coming in, too many people coming in and overloading the system. I think this is a pretty good way of doing it because this is basically a snapshot on the 13th of January saying, hey, you had to have 128 transactions before that date to be eligible to contribute. And then obviously as time goes on and the queue, the queue is small, or maybe there's not even a queue at all, the requirements will drop down. So maybe it becomes like 64 transactions by that date instead of 128. And then it halves again to like 32 and so on and so forth. Just basically as a queuing system to allow people to come in, get their commitments done, and no need to FOMO over it, no need to make to FOMO over not getting it done in time and any of that stuff there, and no need to leave your computer on for days on end, hoping that you get into, you're able to commit here. And I think this is a really great solution to that. So just a heads up that, the public contribution phase of the KZG ceremony will be opening up again soon. And if you have addresses or an address with at least 128 transactions before that date, you'll be able to contribute as part of the first round. But then, as I said, as time goes on, that requirement will be lowered to something, whatever they lower it to, but it will be lowered over time, and eventually you'll be able to get in. So I think this is just a really great way to do a queuing system with the KZG ceremony here. All right, so it's been a few days since withdrawals was activated on Ethereum, the Ethereum mainnet. Now, we've seen a ton of analysis of this over the weekend, and two of the best threads that I've come across come from Dobby and Martin Lee. Now, Dobby, you guys know, works at Dragonfly now, but does a lot of do analytics dashboards and does a lot of things around on-chain data. So who better to put a tweet thread out about the Shanghai withdrawals and also explaining everything got to do with staking withdrawals, like all the differences between partial and full withdrawals, the differences between the 0x00 address format and 0x01 address format, the queues, the withdrawal queue, the entry queue, all that good stuff there. If you're confused about any of it, I mean, you've heard me talk a lot about it, but a lot of the times I won't give an explanation of it. I'll just assume that people know what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, I remember saying this early on in the refuel. I can't explain the same thing over and over again because then it just becomes really repetitive. But that's why I link to threads like what Dobby has here so you guys can get an explanation of these things. So as I said, Dobby has a thread, but so does Martin Lee. And Martin Lee is a data journalist at Nansen here, and he also has a pretty long thread, actually. I think it's over 30 tweets long here, explaining withdrawals as well, with a bunch of data analyzing withdrawals since they went live. So yeah, I think it's a great idea to go check out both of these threads to get a full understanding of the differences between the things I just mentioned. And I think from what I've noticed over the last few days, especially on Twitter, Reddit, Discord, what people seem to be most confused about, and people seem to be getting a lot of things wrong about, is the difference between full and partial withdrawals. Because a lot of the dashboards haven't actually split these things out, so they've just basically commingled them. So people will say, "Oh, there's a million ETH that's going to be withdrawn," and they'll think that that's got that million ETH is coming from full withdrawals, when in reality that's coming from partial withdrawals, and the partial withdrawals are done automatically. So even if the person didn't want to withdraw their ETH or didn't want to do anything with that ETH, they just wanted to sit on it, it would still automatically withdraw as long as they had changed their withdrawal credentials to 0x01. And of course, a lot of people who had rewards and who were staking for a while now may be able to compound those rewards and spin up another solo validator, or maybe they just want to go spin up a mini pool with Rocket Pool, or maybe they want to stake with another LSD, right? That's what they're going to do. They're going to basically compound their rewards, so they're not necessarily going to sell it. And there's a lot of nuance here, and I've talked about it endlessly on the refuel, so I'm not going to repeat myself there, but I think that's the source of confusion for a lot of people. And then, of course, there's even more confusion around the differences between a 0x00 address and a 0x01. We saw the other day that a bunch of addresses, I think like over 40% of the network were changed from 0x00 to 0x01 post-Shanghai, which means that the partial withdrawals automation went through again and started withdrawing massive amounts of ETH from the consensus layer rewards to these addresses that weren't eligible before. So that I saw people on Twitter saying, look at this massive unlock now. Everyone's unstaking. It's going to lead to a massive dump, when that wasn't correct at all. It was literally just the rewards being paid out. So, but as I said, Hill Dobby and Martin Lee's threads explain this quite well, and I highly recommend checking them both out. I'll link them in the YouTube description below. And also, the other major source of confusion is around the exit queue on Ethereum. It's got nothing to do with Ethereum's transactions or how many transactions it can process. The exit and entry queue was designed in the way it was designed for security purposes. It had nothing to do with Ethereum scalability. It's not being done to limit the amount of ETH that can come out for price-related reasons or anything like that. It was done for the security of the network. And on top of that, there is a minimum 27-hour exit queue. So even if there is no queue, even if you're the only person exiting a full withdrawal, it would still take a minimum of 27 hours, because that is also designed in protocol that way. So essentially, the queue starts after 27 hours. So the first person will withdraw, and they'll withdraw within 27 hours, and then it just gets longer and longer from there. I believe the withdrawal queue right now is almost 20 days or something like that for it to clear. So and as more validators get added to the network, it can clear faster and faster. At certain points, it has to reach certain checkpoints, and I think either Martin or Hill Dobby's thread explains this as well. So yeah, as I said, you can check out these threads. I'll leave my comments there, but I'll link both of them in the YouTube description below. All right, just another thing about staking comes from Superfizz here, and I think he has actually two things I want to talk about. So yeah, there's one tweet here where he said, based on the uptick in solo staking questions I'm seeing on the ETHstaker channels, I'd say we're getting a big increase in solo stakers from home. This is so beneficial for the long-term success of our network. Thank you everyone for this effort. So this is one of my things that I wanted to see post-Shanghai. I wanted to see more people solo staking because, one, it's gotten a lot easier, even though it's still not easy, right? It's not like plug and play a lot of the time, unless you go with a solution like DApp Node, but even that isn't totally plug in and play, right? There are still certain things you have to do. And as I've explained in the past, I don't think solo staking is ever going to get to a point where it's literally click one or two buttons and you're good to go. Because just depositing the ETH to begin with and to get started staking is a few clicks in of itself. So you're already past that 1 to 2 click 1 to 2 click requirement there. So solo staking is never going to be the easiest way to stake, but it has gotten a lot better, I think, since Genesis. And on top of that, it's been de-risked a lot, right? On top of that, ETH as an asset has just been transformed, right? It's just become such a different asset, and so many more people bullish on ETH. The ecosystem has grown so much, and now that withdrawals are enabled, it makes a lot more sense to solo stake because you get your rewards, and you can do whatever you want with your rewards, right, straight away, and all that good stuff there. So yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised to see an uptick here in people wanting to solo stake. So just a bit of anecdotal evidence from Superfizz. And I mean, who would know better than someone who monitors and participates in the ETHstaker channels, where generally people are going to go when they have issues with setting up a solo staking rig, or maybe setting up something like Rocket Pool, right? But yeah, just great to see that there. And the second tweet from Superfizz was also related to staking, where he said, "There's a real explosion of new staking services and protocols out there. This is wonderful, but more than I can keep up with. So look for these features." And he has a checklist here, a non-exhaustive checklist. Obviously, this isn't going to cover everything, but this is just a basic checklist that you should use when staking your ETH with a staking provider. So the first thing, full smart contract from end to end. So basically, you don't want any centralized middleman, so to speak, right? You don't want any kind of like controlling party where essentially someone says, "Hey, give me your ETH," and they take custody of your ETH and they go stake it on your behalf. No, you want a full smart contract from end-to-end staking experience, something like a rocket pool, right? Open source, I mean, that's a given. Like, you don't want to be interacting with any smart contracts that aren't open source. That's a rule of thumb, I think, for everything in crypto and in Ethereum, not just for staking, but it's really important with staking, definitely. Decentralized. This is going to be harder for the newer staking services to adhere to, because they're new, right? A lot of times when things are new, they don't want to decentralize because of the risk of bugs, or they still have major upgrades they want to do to their smart contracts, or or for security reasons. There are any number of reasons for them not to be decentralized. So I think this one, as I said, is going to be difficult for newer services to hit on. And even Rocket Pool, as much as I love them, there are still centralizing forces in Rocket Pool right now. The ODAO being the most obvious one right now. And I mean, you guys know I'm an ODAO member as well, but I think it's worth being honest here and not sugarcoating it. The ODAO is definitely a centralizing force in Rocket Pool, but it's not like Rocket Pool is centralized because of that. Like, I think Rocket Pool is obviously the most decentralized staking pool we have today, and it's only becoming more so over time, and the ODAO is a temporary solution, but it's still good to be honest here. So I don't think any of these services today meet the decentralized criteria here. Obviously, solo staking does, but solo staking isn't a staking service or a protocol, right? Solo staking is literally you're literally at the bare metals, and you're not using anything built on top. So I think that third point, while very important, shouldn't stop you from staking with a service. I just think that you need to see how centralized it is, or what their plan is towards decentralization, right? Do they have a credible path towards it? Is it actually possible for that protocol to ever decentralize? Like, are they saying, "Oh yeah, we'll decentralize at some point in the future," but then you do your research and think to yourself, "Well, wait, this actually doesn't make sense, right? This protocol can't decentralize because of this, and this." So that's something to keep in mind as well. The fourth point, there should be permissionless node operation. So essentially, anyone should be able to create a node. Again, Rocket Pool allows you to do this. Anyone is able to create a mini pool. There is no permission to do that. With StakeWise V3, there is going to be no permission for anyone to create their own vault as well. So that's what I mean. That's what is meant here by permissionless node operation. You shouldn't have to ask someone for permission to spin up a validator or spin up a node. You should just be able to do it. And then the last point here, give more than they take. There's a few interpretations of what this could mean. Basically, you want the staking service and protocol to be a good steward of the network. And this is a very subjective thing, because you could debate people about which service is actually beneficial to the network, which one is not beneficial to the network, which one is a leech, which one has a symbiotic relationship, which one has a community that actually cares about Ethereum, which one has a community of just profit maximalists. So as I said, it's a subjective thing that can be debated, but generally you want to be staking with services and protocols that are Ethereum aligned, right? Especially if you want a long-term security and long-term, safety, I guess you could say, of your funds in these protocols. And then there was some comments here as well. Someone mentioned multiple audits. That's always, I think, a given as well for any smart contract. Honestly, the last time I interacted with a smart contract that wasn't audited was DeFi Summer, and I regret doing it back then, because I look back on it now and be like, wow, I could have lost a lot of money if I was rugged by one of these contracts. So for me, going forward, I don't, or at least I try not to interact with any smart contracts that have not been audited. And I think this is especially important when it comes to staking protocols, because not only are you interacting with it once or twice or on a temporary or short-term basis, you could be staking with these protocols for long periods of time, like potentially years. So you definitely want to make sure that they have had audits, and especially multiple audits. So I think that's also a very important point there. But I like this checklist from Superfizz. You can go bookmark this tweet if you want to keep this handy, but definitely something to keep in mind when choosing which staking protocol or service to stake with. All right, Peter from the Geth team has shared his slides from ETH Tokyo about 4844 transaction pooling. So this is one of the things that has been under heavy research and development regarding 4844, and something that I think is not holding up 4844 or anything like that, but something of a very important consideration, because if they get it wrong, it could lead to potential DOS attacks on the network. It could lead to potential things where essentially if there's a reorg on the network, and then one of these 4844 blob transactions gets reorged, then what happens on the layer 2? Like, there are all these considerations here, and Peter's slides do a really great job of explaining it. Now, obviously, you're missing the context of Peter actually talking to the slides, so hopefully there's a video on his talk on this, but I don't know if there is just yet. I haven't seen one, but the slides themselves gives you enough context, I think. So I highly recommend checking out the slides for more information on 4844 and the considerations that are being thought about and talked about in order to make sure that we ship 4844 to the network in a safe state, so it doesn't actually cause any instability on the network, doesn't cause anyone to lose money, or anyone to kind of or any of the L2's to get messed up by it or anything like that, because they're going to be the main users here. So definitely go check that out. And there's also a bit of art here that was generated by Midjourney that I thought was really cool, just like ETH logo with Mount Fuji here and a bunch of Japanese architecture as well. I thought that was actually really cool. It's a pretty cool image that Midjourney created. I saved this as well. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Maybe it'll become my phone wallpaper for a bit, but yeah, you can check that out as well. I'll link these in the YouTube description below. All right, so speaking of Rocket Pool, in, I guess, like, not even 48 hours now, Jasper put this tweet out yesterday, so basically 24 hours from now, or even less than that, the Rocket Pool Atlas upgrade is going live. 8 ETH mini pools will become available, so you no longer need 16 ETH and a bunch of RPL to stake. You only need 8 ETH and 2.4 ETH worth of RPL to spin up mini pools with Rocket Pool. So that might be something that you're interested in. And as I said before, you don't need powerful hardware to do it. You can run a smart node stack. That's the software that Rocket Pool uses, on a Raspberry Pi, on a Rock 5B board. The only thing you have to worry about is if that you have at least 2 terabytes worth of SSD storage, and that's really it. 16 gig RAM should be enough. 32 for future-proof, but 16 should definitely be enough, and even less than that. And you can run hundreds of mini pools and hundreds of validators on these things. Staking is not hardware intensive. I think that's a point worth reiterating constantly. It is way more capital intensive than it is hardware intensive. Even with 8 ETH pools, I mean, that's still pretty capital intensive, right? That's 16 grand worth of ETH, and then the RPL requirement too. But if you've got that and you want to stake, you don't have to go and splurge thousands and thousands of dollars on hardware. You can do it for $500, right? I'm talking US dollars here, of course. And then, yeah, so that might be something that you want to check out. But that's going live. Rewards will be able to be withdrawn when the Atlas upgrade go live. And this is the consensus layer rewards. And the deposit pool will have room to mint RETH again. So hopefully there isn't that premium there, so that people buy RETH on the secondary market. And so it opens up Rocket Pool staking to more people here. So yeah, as I said, this is going live in less than 24 hours. The ODAO actually voted on this before. I voted on it earlier in the day. It passed the vote. So yeah, it's all good. It's all going live here. And this has been a long time coming for Rocket Pool, right? And this is, as I've said plenty of times, it's a major upgrade for the protocol here. And it should lead to a bunch of growth. And it's come at the right time. Obviously, post-Shanghai, just a few days after Shanghai is the perfect time to do it. But I'm curious to see what this does for Rocket Pool growth. Now that people can change from other services, unfortunately, people can't change from Lido just yet, unless they sell their ST-ETH and sell it for RETH maybe, or maybe they sell their ST-ETH and then go spin up a smart node stack and spin up some mini pools. They can do that, but no one can actually withdraw ETH from the Lido operators directly yet, because Lido withdrawals aren't live yet. But Coinbase is live. We've got Kraken refugees. They probably looking around and seeing where to stake next. We have people with rewards. Maybe they're solo stakers and they think, okay, I have enough solo validators. Let's spin up some Rocket Pool ones. Maybe they're coming from other exchanges like Coinbase and Binance. There's plenty of places they can be coming from. I do think that Rocket Pool stands a nice chance of capturing a lot of the Kraken refugees because of this lower requirement. Maybe a lot of them don't have 32 ETH to solo stake. And I do think that that Lido stakers as well may consider selling their ST ETH and going into RETH for potentially better yield, maybe because they want a more decentralized, they want an actually decentralized kind of service staking their ETH for them, or being exposed to that, or maybe they want to spin up mini pools as well. So as I said, perfect timing for Atlas here. Great to see it going live, and I can't wait to convert all of my mini pools to 8 ETH mini pools and then spin up more. I've been waiting until Atlas went live to spin up more. I want to spin up at least 2 more to get to 10, which is actually going to be 20 because it's halving the requirement here. So I'll be getting to 20 mini pools, but 10 in the old requirements. But the reason I'm not spinning up more is because I've actually been spinning up a lot of solo validators with any ETH that I've accrued, and I'm going to be doing that with my rewards as well. So yeah, but as I said, like, Rocket Pool is great. If you've got less than 32 ETH, if you've got 8 ETH here and you've got the RPL, you can stake it and you can spin up your mini pools on low powered hardware. All right, L2 Beat announced over the weekend that the combined TVL, or total value locked, of all Layer 2 solutions has passed $10 billion, experiencing a noteworthy increase in the last week. Now, you guys know that I'm not a huge fan of TVL as a metric. Like, I'll give you one guess as to why it increased so much in the last week. I mean, you probably know, right? The prices of everything went up. I mean, ETH is at 2100. The ARB token went up, right? The OP token went up, and a bunch of other tokens went up. So that's why I've never been a huge fan of TVL, because it's very sensitive to price movements, and it's also very sensitive to liquidity movements. In saying that, it's still good to see it growing, because I think that the meme and the narrative of TVL being something important is more powerful than the actual fundamentals behind it. And I think it gets more attention on L2's. It gets more people talking about L2's and saying, oh, wow, look at the L2's. They're growing. I should go use them. What's on there? That so many people are putting their capital on there. And it just benefits the whole Ethereum ecosystem, even if the actual metric isn't that much signal. In saying that, I did showcase the other day how the L2s are generating a lot of fee revenue right now, which I still believe, and you guys know, it's my favorite metric for tracking activity on various networks, and that's still maintaining today. I think if I go to cryptofees.info right now and bring it up for you guys to see what I'm seeing, you can see that Arbitrum 1 still did $225,000 worth of fee revenue over the last 24 hours, over the last day, I should say. And Optimism did about 143,000 here. So they're still up there. They're still doing record numbers, basically, which is awesome. And Arbitrum's almost at half of Bitcoin. I think it's pretty much like at half of Bitcoin's daily fee revenue, which is pretty crazy when you think about it, right? So the L2s are growing no matter which metric you look at here. There's more of them going online. Obviously, we have the ZK AVMs go online. They're growing. There is still more to come, like Scroll and Tyco and Starknet's growing and having a lot of great stuff going on there, which I should talk about in a sec. Actually, I'm going to talk about this in a sec. But yeah, I mean, there's no denying that the L2 ecosystem is growing. And I've said, I don't know if I've said this on the Refuel before, but I have kind of like this thesis right now that we're going to experience something similar to what we experienced with DeFi Summer, but we're going to have like a proper L2 Summer, and I believe it's going to be led by Base. So I don't know exactly when Base mainnet is going to go live. I assume it's going to go live sometime this year, maybe around 48, 44, so maybe later in the year. I don't know. Maybe it goes live earlier than that in a mainnet capacity. But think about this for a sec. So let's say the bull market comes back in, 2024, right? Let's say we get a massive influx of new users in 2024. And let's say Coinbase is obviously going to capture a lot of those new users. And they start promoting Base. Well, people are going to go to Base to do on-chain stuff, right? And then from Base, they're going to think, what other L2s are there? And then they're going to go explore the Arbitrums, the Optimisms, the ZKVMs, right? And then that's going to lead to a massive influx of new money and liquidity into these things. And it's going to look like what DeFi Summer looked like, where there was just so much money being injected into this new ecosystem, and all the tokens were going nuts. There was so much money being made by everyone, and then potentially we come crashing down in a big way like DeFi did. I don't know exactly what it's going to look like, but I can potentially see this huge narrative forming, especially for newer people who will be able to actually afford this now. Obviously, we had the L1 narrative in 2021, and I think a big reason for that was because of the L1s taking advantage of Ethereum's weakness, where the L2s weren't live yet, and the Ethereum L1 fees were really high, and there was nowhere else for people to go except these other L1s. And there were also token incentives, of course. But now with the L2s, we get a double whammy. We get people still in the Ethereum ecosystem. We get cheap fees. Well, this is a triple whammy, actually. We get the cheap fees, obviously, and especially post 4844. And we also get the L2s doing their own token incentives, which should drive growth too. And we get a new influx of users, which should bring in a lot of new money and all that good stuff there. So that's my running thesis right now. Not sure on the timing here. It could be the end of this year. It could be sometime next year. I would say within the next 18 months, I expect this to happen. I expect some huge growth for L2s to happen. It just logically makes sense to me, at least, with Base leading the charge, because Coinbase is able to funnel a lot of new users into Base, and then they're not just going to stop at Base, right? You don't just stop at one. Once you're on chain, you explore everything, especially if you can just easily change the network in MetaMask, which you can when you're exploring all the L2s, and then you can bridge between them. I really do feel like the main benefactor of the next influx of new users is going to be Ethereum and L2s, and I'm super excited for that, obviously. But that's my thesis. We'll see if I'm right. As I said, I'm giving myself a time frame within the next 18 months, so pretty much to the end of next year, I guess, for this to play out, and we'll see how that goes there. All right, so I spoke about StarkWare before and how there's an update I wanted to talk about. Well, Influence, a MMO that I've talked about before, a crypto game that I've talked about on the Refuel a bunch of times before, announced, I think it was a week ago now, and I missed this, but they announced that they have gotten a strategic investment from StarkWare into their game. Now, Influence is really cool. As I said, I've spoken about it before. I've showed you guys, I think, showed you it on the Refuel before, or at least highlighted it on the Refuel before, but this is trying to be a fully on-chain EVE Online-like game that is powered by StarkNet. Now, this is really ambitious, and this is something I think that StarkNet uniquely enables as well, and it's something that I think is also very suited to having an on-chain economy because it's, as I said, trying to be, or at least it's being built in the spirit of something like EVE Online, where an EVE Online, for anyone who's played it, has a massive economy. It's not a crypto economy. It's basically based on a fiat and in-game economy. But imagine you had a crypto economy that overlapped with the in-game economy, and then you could trade these items, whether they be in-game items or in-game currencies, using all the crypto native tools that we're used to on a layer 2 solution where transactions are essentially, nothing, and then you can do transaction batching, and then you can do basically free transactions. It's going to be awesome, right? So I just wanted to highlight this and say congrats to the team on the investment from StarkWare here. If you want to learn more about Influence, you can go check out this post here, which I'll link in the YouTube description below. And there's tons of info for you to dig through if you're into this sort of stuff. All right, we have the 11 ETHGlobal Tokyo finalists that have been announced here. So you can check out this tweet thread. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. But I wanted to talk about one or two projects that caught my eye. So the first one is called, where is it? It's called ZK Voice Key. So what ZK Voice Key does is that it allows users to recover their private keys with their voice. Using fuzzy commit and zero knowledge proofs, authentication happens through a fuzzy match of voice without storing voice on the blockchain. This is really cool. This is a really cool application of ZK technology here, which I thought was very novel, and I don't think I've seen anyone do before. So you can check this project out and check out their ETHGlobal page here, and they've also got their source code available on GitHub, I believe, here for you to check out as well. But that was a cool project that I came across, and another one, I believe, if I just scroll down here, was, which one was it? There was one more I remember looking at and thinking, wow, I think it might have been this one here, Mina, which is a browser wallet for Japanese residents that lets them use their government-issued ID called a My Number card as a hardware wallet. This is really cool as well because, as I've said before, I'm really bullish on real-world authentication and ID mechanisms being bridged into the on-chain crypto ID ecosystem, and using those IDs in a privacy preserving way, and using them to create, within wallets and things like that. And that's exactly what I think it's called Miner. I think that's what the project is called, because I think it's a play on my number card here. So you can go check out this project as well. But those were the two that caught my eye. Now, I don't think the winner has been announced yet for the ETHGlobal Tokyo hackathon here. Let me see if a winner's been announced. No, it's just the finalists so far. Is it just the finalists so far? I'm just scrolling through here, sorry. Yeah, I guess the winner will be announced later on. But yeah, you can go check out the thread for all of the finalists here. Check out the projects. Check out new novel ways that people are using the technologies that we have within crypto. But anyway, on that note, that is going to be it for today. So thank everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.